Hey, Cam Roberts here. I'm joined today with Sue Scott from Scott's Property Group. And Sue, thank you very much for coming on the Facebook Live today.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
We are broadcasting to the Business Insiders group on Facebook. So if you're watching this on my personal Facebook profile, just make sure you check that out. If you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, or someone that's interested in marketing, just head over to Business Insiders, search for it in the Facebook group search, and send an invite there, and we'll let you in the group. So Sue and I connected because she was in the group. I was asking for people's websites and checking them out, and I said, hey, looks like you've got a great website. We're in a similar area. And so I thought I'd get on and talk a little bit more about buyer's agents, what they are, how people use them. So Sue, do you want to take it away and tell us a little bit about your business and what does a buyer's agent do?
Absolutely. I'd love to give you that information. So a little bit of background about Scott Properties Group. So Simon is my son and I work with him, and primarily about 5 years ago, he decided that he wanted to expand the business because the majority of his work was building design, because that's what he is also a building designer. The markets were changing. So he said, oh, I think we ought to do something else. And he'd already got his real estate license. And simply I said, look, I don't want to go back selling, but if you are interested, I'd be very happy to go in as a buyer's agent. So we researched all that out. We did some upskilling with the Buyer's Agent Institute, which was good. And then we relaunched, and we've kind of gone from there. So we are a mother and son team. I tend to be sort of on the, live like this. And Simon tends to be, he's the techie guy. He's the guy behind and does a lot of the mathematics and the calculations for our investors. But I'm the sort of the face, if you like, of the business. So, but we decided to become buyer's agents as against selling agents. So I think that needs to be clarified a little bit. As buyer's agents, we are 100% independent of any selling agents. So we have no allegiance with any selling agents. We take no commissions. So our clients pay us to search and buy their properties. And the reason that we wanted to go this side of the fence was that, bearing in mind, people are probably spending hundreds, if not millions of dollars on a property. They only have one side of the story. They only really have the selling agent story and information, and they have to do their own negotiations in a market that they probably may be very well, uncertain about. Whereas on our side, we deal completely with our clients. They're our focus, and then we obviously do all the negotiations. We do the searching, the sourcing, and everything for them. So it's 100% commitment from us to our clients primarily.
And I'm gonna ask a very left field question here. To real estate agents, they don't like buyer's agents. Is there some sort of...
Actually, Cam, they love us, and I tell you why they love us is that when we get a client and we organize, go through the brief or whatever, and we contact them, and we work with hundreds of real estate agents across the Central Coast and Brisbane. They know that our clients are qualified. In other words, they're either cash up or they have pre-approved finance, which in this modern day is not what it was with COVID, but we know, or they know, that we're not just bringing any Tom, Dick and Harry into a property, that we're coming in knowing that our clients can afford it.
Yeah, right.
So there's none of that, oh, well, I'd like it, but I need another 50 grand. That's all gone. So it's and that's why we can then go in and negotiate really quickly, because we're in that position to do so.
Yeah.
So they love us, basically. They love us.
Okay. So from a business point of view, how has your business changed, if any, during all the lockdowns, COVID, pandemic, rules, regulations? Has it changed for you much?
Look, end of February, beginning of March was a little iffy as to how we were going to all operate, and it was easy really for us because we're so used to communicating with people interstate and overseas. Zoom or whatever was not a new a thing for us because we've already do it. But what was frustrating, I think, was not being able to physically go and view properties, because one of the things that a buyer's agent does is, you get the list, you go through it, you forward it to your clients, and then you shortlist, but you would have already viewed all those properties. We would have gone in first and viewed all those properties so that we could send a detailed report through. So we don't just say, oh, we went to number 1, Smith Street, and it's okay. We would go in and say, we went to number one Smith Street, it's a nice property, it's brick, however we feel that this could need to be done and that might need to be done, and so on and so forth. So we do for each property that we view, we then give a recommendation as to whether we believe that it fits within their brief, because it might fit within their brief as far as price, location, but they don't want to renovate, for example. So we then have to say, well, if we get it at the right price, you might need to spend 20,000, 30,000 to get it really where you want it to be. So we're in that position to be able to do that, and that's where Simon comes in again, because he obviously views that we view the properties together. So for an investor that's looking for a good yield, gross yield, they sometimes are prepared to buy something that's perhaps not spot on, but with a little bit of tweaking, they can make it very viable.
Right.
On their returns. So.
And you talked about putting lists together, like, getting a list for a client. Where do you source your properties from? Where do you get those lists from?
Okay, so primarily we, obviously, as I said, we take a really detailed brief and from our clients, and then depending on the location, we then contact the relevant real estate agents that we know and work very closely with. And the thing that's really interesting is, because they know that we have qualified buyers, they are prepared to give us pre-listings. And for those that don't understand what pre-listings are, they're properties that will potentially go on the market within the next 2 to 3 weeks, but they haven't had any marketing done. Yeah. And of course, excuse me, off-market properties, where people, for numerous reasons, don't want to put their property on the open market. But if the real estate agent can find a buyer that is qualified, they're quite happy to let us go through. So they're the two main differences, because they're the properties that the man in the street can't get hold of. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And so you're talking about properties that people can't get a hold of, making a list of the right type of properties for people. Have you got any examples of a couple of good deals? Yeah, I do actually, and I will read this out because I don't want to give people false information. But primarily, I've got examples of 2 properties that we've bought recently for investors. Yeah, very different. One was in the Glasshouse Mountains. It was a renovated Queenslander, beautifully done. It also had part of the underneath built in. The expectation from the seller was that they would probably get round about the 490 mark. We actually purchased that for 465. And the owner could see, as we did, that the huge benefit from an investment point of view is that the upstairs was very separate to the downstairs. So by increasing the livable space downstairs, they could get 2 very good rentable properties. And in fact, the figures are that even taken into consideration the $60,000 that was used for the work, she's yielding 6.49%, because she's getting $710 per week for both the upstairs and the downstairs. Yeah. So that's huge on a property that you've only purchased for that amount of money, even with the extension or the work underneath. So they're the kind of deals that we try to get for our clients. So we save the money. We've had it kind of revalued. It's already gone up into the 550 mark now. So we know she spent the money. She's still got good equity. Yeah. Sorry. What if you went out and bought a normal property, like $400,000, $450,000? What would you expect that to rent for by comparison? Look, if it's something ready to go, it depends on the state. I mean, it does depend on the condition of the property, but you'd like to at least get 5% as a good yield. And on the coast especially, and in Brisbane, that is achievable, that 5 to 7% depending on location. And bearing in mind that when you're looking for an investment property, there's other considerations that have to come into it. But if you're looking for a home, that's it's the same set of rules, but it's a very different formula to do that. So I've just got another example that that might be of interest. We've just negotiated a property in the western suburbs of Brisbane. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom property. It's only 6 or 7 years old. Unfortunately, it went to market, it fell over through finance, and we were lucky that we spoke to the agent literally the day after it had fallen over. So in effect, it was post-market or off-market again. And we managed to get in there with qualified buyers. So the property was on the market for 340, and we actually got it for 290.
That's good buy.
It's a cash cow, to be honest, in some ways. It doesn't need any work doing on it whatsoever, and so it's it's ready to go. So by the time we've got settlement in a couple of weeks' time, as soon as it goes unconditional, the letting agents will then market it. And we're hoping for a simultaneous or within 24, 48 hours. So the client will have the property and the income from the following, literally within the next 48 hours.
Wow, that's very good.
So that's how we try to make that happen.
I've got
to do it.
Yeah,
but we try.
No, that's good. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Can't get a property person on a live Facebook Live without asking them what do they think the property market's going to do.
Oh, that crystal ball! I'll have a look under the desk. Look,
everyone's got an opinion, right?
Everyone's got an opinion, and look, we've tried to be as honest as possible, and we've done a lot of research. Daily we're doing research to make sure that we're giving as accurate information as possible. But the reality, working on the ground on the Sunshine Coast and in Brisbane, we've seen no change.
Right.
The only thing that is, there's been very little, if any, adjustment, and it tends to be at the higher end. So supposing a property was going on the market for, say, 2.6 million, as an example, that the owners may say, oh, well, look, we're quite happy. We've made X, Y, or Z. We're quite happy to let it go for, say, 2.4 million. So we can get to, we can get a couple of 100,000 off of that potentially. And so, but where it goes from now is very interesting because, as I say, there was all this doom and gloom. There was going to be 30% drop, doom and gloom everywhere. It was going to be an absolute chaos. And look, we're not seeing it, and neither are our colleagues. I mean, we speak to our colleagues frequently, and we're saying, well, what are you finding? And some of them in South Australia, and some of them are in, but in all states, to be honest. And none of them have come back saying, oh, it's dreadful. They're being discounted by 10%. No, not seeing it.
Yeah.
But honestly, what will happen post-COVID? I don't think for us on the coast or in Brisbane, where we've never had the huge hikes like Sydney and Melbourne have, I don't think we're going to crash and burn. That's my personal opinion after being in the industry for over 30 years. I don't believe that we're going to crash and burn as we may have done in previously, because although we're now allegedly in recession, and figures say we are, people always buy and people always sell property.
That's right. Yeah, people got to live somewhere. There's always someone with money to buy an investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for us, the market is stable. I think that's probably the best thing to say. The biggest issue there is, and it's across Australia, is lack of stock.
Right.
There's not the property going on the market.
Yeah. Right.
And that's where we're gaining again, because people are coming to us saying, look, we've looked at everything, but there's only 6 properties in our price bracket in the area we want to live in. And we say, well, hold on a minute, we actually know of another 4 or 5 as I sit here, because they've come across my desk in the last few days, that have got pre-listings or are off-market properties. So that's where we can gain. for our clients, we can find more properties. But that is the biggest issue, because there are buyers out there. I mean, banks are still lending, and let's be frank about it, they're not going to make any money.
They're not going to make any money if they don't lend money.
So they've got to lend the money, and quite frankly, now with all the first home buyer stuff coming through, this is a perfect time for first home buyers to get into the market. But there's one interesting scenario there, because not everyone who is a first time buyer wants to buy a brand new property.
Yeah, that's true.
And we've worked with several first time buyers who have never bought a house and land package, don't want to, because it's not the environment that they want to live in.
That's true.
So it's not for everyone. I mean, for those that want it, that want to get on the ladder, they can get that 40,000. They're Australian citizens. Go for it. You'd be silly not to do it. But the problem is, because that hasn't been happening, it's actually clogged up the system, because without first-time buyers, you don't get anyone moving forward. You don't get anyone moving up.
Yeah.
So strategically, the government have been so right in getting that going again. Unfortunately, I think the limitations is going to be the 6 months, because even if you go and purchase a property or a piece of land or whatever this week, you've then got to still get your finance done. It's still got to be valued. It's still got to go through all the processes. It still has to go through council, although it's sort of group approved. And then it's got to start to be built within 3 months, or I think it's actually 90 days of the date of the signing of the contract. It has to be started in that period. So, you know, it could be quite a hard call for some developers. The bigger developers, no, but perhaps the smaller developers. The only good thing is, though, that if you're in a situation where you can buy off-plan properties, for which there's still a lot around, you can get that grant too. Yeah. So that's really quite an important part, you know, if you're in that situation. But again, I believe it has to be started within, you know, it's got to be ready to go. You're buying off plan, but it's actually got to be ready to be built in that time frame. So there's legalities involved. So that's where good conveyancers come in. Okay, cool.
Now, Sue, before we wrap up, if someone's listening to this or they're watching the replay later on, if they're not watching live, but they're watching later on, and they go, hey, I like that Sue. She looks like she knows what she's talking about, and maybe she could help me get my next investment property. How do they reach out and how do they find you?
Okay, so you've presumably got our website link. You can either call us, and that's all on our website. So it's scottpropertiesgroup.com.au. You can actually email me directly at sue@scottpropertiesgroup.com.au, and we offer our potential clients. Lost you.
No, I'm still here. Yeah, still here. Oh, your sound's gone there, Sue. So hang on, you've hit. There you go.
The screen. Okay, sorry, the screen went up. So you can get through to us via our email, and for anyone that wants to have a chat with us, you can go on, as I say, to the website. You can click onto calendar, you can book an appointment, or you can ring us, and we offer a 45-minute free strategy session, either like this, on the phone, however you want to do it. If it's local, we can now meet, which is lovely. Go out and have a coffee.
As long as there's only 9 other people in the cafe.
Yeah, unless you create a protest. So we were actually laughing about that. We're saying, we're going to protest. We're going to go out and get 200 people and say, go for coffee. We're protesting. But look, it is what it is, and freedom of speech, I'm all for that too. So there's no issue there. But by all means, you know, so basically we look after first-time buyers, upsizers, downsizers, investors, you name it, we do it.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks, Sue, for jumping on the Facebook Live today in the Business Insiders Group. Really appreciate your time. And I've enjoyed learning more about what a buyer's agent does.
Yeah. Well, there's not many of us on the coast, actually.
That's good.
Okay.
Right, thanks, heaps.
Bye now. Bye.